All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on what makes AI agents tick. We're talking about their planning patterns, basically the blueprints they use to think. We're going to break down the three big ones: react, plan and execute, and the tree of thoughts, so you can see how an AI actually learns to plan and, get stuff done. So, why should you care? Well, here's the bottom line. Picking the right planning pattern is everything. It can literally be the difference between an AI agent that works like a charm and one that just flops. And this isn't some high-level, abstract concept. We're talking about the practical key to building agents that can actually handle the real world. And really, this question gets right to the core of the whole challenge, right? I mean, it's one thing to have an AI that can answer a simple question, but how do you teach it to think ahead, to strategize, to pivot when new information comes in, and to actually chase after a complex goal? Well, that's exactly what these planning patterns are built for.
Okay, so as we dive in, it's really important to get this one thing straight. Choosing between these patterns isn't about which one is smarter. Nope, it all comes down to a fundamental balancing act that every AI agent has to perform.
And that balancing act is all about two things: thinking and doing. The thinking part is, reasoning about the problem. And the doing part is actually taking action. Every single pattern we're going to talk about is just a different recipe for mixing these two ingredients. And how an agent juggles them? That basically defines its whole personality.
All right, first up, we've got the most common, the most foundational pattern of them all: react. The best way to think about this one? It's the agile thinker. It's quick on its feet, ready to roll with the punches. So react, it's short for reason and act. And the name tells you everything, really. It works in this continuous loop. The agent doesn't try to map out the whole journey from the get-go. Nope. It just focuses on one simple thing. What's the very next step I need to take right now? And you can see that loop in action right here. First, the agent reasons, okay, what's my next move? Then, it acts on it. But here's the magic part. It observes the result. It looks at what happened, learns from it, and that new information feeds right back into figuring out the next step. It's this constant, powerful cycle. Think, do, learn, and repeat. Okay, so if react is our agile thinker, adapting on the fly, then our next pattern, plan and execute, is kind of the polar opposite. This one is the master architect. It's all about careful, detailed planning right from the start. So instead of that constant loop we saw with React, this pattern breaks everything down into two completely separate phases. Phase 1. The agent looks at the entire problem and builds a full, comprehensive step-by-step plan. And only when that blueprint is totally finished does it even think about moving on.
And just look at the difference. See? It's not a loop at all. It's a straight line. All the brainpower, all the thinking is front-loaded to create that perfect plan. And once that's locked in, the agent just flips a switch into doing mode and follows its own instructions to the letter. No changes, no surprises. And that brings us to our third and final pattern. Now, this one is the heavyweight. It's the most complex and way more computationally intensive. It's called tree of thoughts. And if the other patterns are like builders following a blueprint, this one's the chess grandmaster, thinking 10 moves ahead. The key word to remember for tree of thoughts is explore. See, unlike React, which picks one next step, or plan and execute, which creates one big plan, Tree of Thoughts, or TOT for short, comes up with a bunch of different ideas, a bunch of different paths, all at the same time. Let's go back to that chess grandmaster analogy, because it's perfect. The agent doesn't just pick one move. It thinks, what if I do this, or maybe this? It explores where each of those moves could lead, building out this big branching tree of possible futures. Then, it looks at all the branches, decides which ones are dead ends, and prunes them, just snips them right off. Only after all that exploring and pruning does it finally commit to the best possible move. Okay, so we've got the agile thinker, the master architect, and the grandmaster. That's great. But now for the million-dollar question for anyone actually building this stuff. How in the world do you choose which one to use for your project? Well, it really boils down to three main things you need to ask yourself. First, how complex is the task? Is it pretty straightforward, or is it super unpredictable? Second, does the agent need to use tools and then react to what those tools spit out? And finally, cost. Let's be real. What's your budget for computation? Because that often comes down to how many API calls you can afford to make. So let's put it all side by side. You've got React. It's cheap. It's great for dynamic, unpredictable stuff, but, and this is a big but, it can sometimes get stuck in a loop. Then there's plan and execute. perfect for predictable, step-by-step tasks, but it's totally inflexible if something unexpected happens. And Tree of Thoughts? Man, it can crack some seriously tough problems, but that power, it comes at a very, very high cost. Now, most of the time, the choice you're really going to be making is between react and plan and execute. So let's just focus on that for a sec. Here's how to decide. If your agent is operating in a messy, uncertain world, think of a customer service bot, right? You absolutely need the adaptability of React. But if the task is a straight shot from A to B and you just need it done reliably every time, then the structure of plan and execute is your best bet.
And this all leads us to probably the single most important piece of advice from all of this. If you're building an agent, listen up. Start simple. Always, always start with React. It's the most flexible, it's the most cost-effective, and honestly, it keeps you from over-engineering things right out of the gate. Only if you see it consistently failing on more complex problems should you even think about upgrading to Plan and Execute, or, for the really, really hard stuff, Tree of Thoughts.
So yeah, choosing the right pattern is absolutely crucial today, but it kind of makes you wonder about tomorrow, doesn't it? I mean, these patterns are our best shot right now at making an AI think strategically. But as the models themselves get insanely more powerful, what's next? What new patterns are we going to invent? What comes after the Grandmaster? I guess that's something we'll all have to watch and see. Thanks for joining me.